What's up, guys? J&J Reviews here, back with another movie review here. The summer movie season has begun, and today we will be doing a full spoiler review of the newest film, Alien Covenant, the latest prequel sequel in the Alien franchise, directed by Ridley Scott. Jamin, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well.
Excited to talk about Alien?
Yeah, why not? I mean, I'm interested to say you like this one compared to me, and we'll see.
Yeah, so just first off, before we get into it, what were your thoughts going in based off of just what you think of the Alien franchise and how excited you were going in?
Yeah, the Alien franchise, I've always been all right with it. You know, it's been popular with others, obviously, and it's kind of one of those movies that has kind of stood the test of time when it first came out, and it's created a big fan base. Um, I never really was in the fan base, but I appreciated what the movies were and what they brought to the table. And so this one, I was kind of like, all right, it's an alien movie. Let's hope that it's good. Maybe it lives up to the others, and we'll kind of see what happens. So I was kind of just, not too happy, not too, not looking forward to this one. I was just kind of right in the middle, ready to go see the new one.
Yeah, I think that's already first point we differ at because I love this franchise. Love the first one. It's my favorite, one of my favorite movies. Also, Aliens, of course, is great. Just the same right up there. And also, I love Prometheus a lot more than a lot of people do. So that right off the bat, just going into this movie, I was very excited because I didn't know, was it going to be more Alien, more Prometheus? I was curious to see what was going to happen with it. And so I was very excited for this movie going in. And I'll say that this movie is, I didn't like the movie a lot overall. I'll say it's disappointing in some aspects, and I really enjoyed other aspects. And just as an Alien fan, I liked what I saw, but some of it didn't all work for me. And I know a lot didn't work for you clearly, but I think overall, as an Alien movie, I thought it did its job, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, I definitely think I would definitely say that the old Alien movies, the originals and such, were great movies. And you can't deny that. And the Prometheus, I would agree. I had some problems with it, but at the same time, it was also a decent, comeback and kind of getting back to the Alien franchise. But yeah, I think that this movie, it did pay homage to the original movies. I think it had a lot of scenes that hardcore fans would appreciate. Um, I think those were the parts that it really nailed. But yeah, there was a lot of problems with this movie, and we'll obviously get into that. But yeah, uh, overall, I do think it had some moments where I think people appreciate it. But I don't know, I can't get away from the major problems in this movie.
Yeah, I think this movie is really interesting to me because for me, the parts that didn't work for me and that I didn't like were everything that had to do with the first Alien movie, and that trying to recreate that just horror, like a bunch of people like trapped in a ship with an alien chasing them. That's been tried. We've done it. We've seen it. It just felt like Ridley Scott had to do it. Like he was like, this is what the people want. Because with Prometheus, that was such a departure. Like that was such a interesting thing to do, the franchise, and to have like no aliens in the movie, like to just do his own thing like that. In this movie, I felt like he wanted to keep doing that, but the general audience and critics were like, no, we don't like that. Give us a xenomorph. We want a xenomorph. And so he gave it to him, and I thought that was the least interesting part of the movie. And what I really liked was what carried over from Prometheus, which is Michael Fassbender, his character David. I loved what happened with him in the movie. We'll get into it in details, but I really liked how certain aspects of Prometheus carried over, and I also didn't like how some of it carried over because it kind of felt like he ditched some of it. But I thought, as far as it tied into the first Alien, that's the part that I thought lacked the most for me.
Yeah, you're right. I think you're exactly right where you say that really Scott kind of had to make those decisions to kind of just make it where this alien was just chasing around people in the ship, and as one review I just read, where basically you were looking for the next person to get ousted, which is true. But it was very similar to the originals in that aspect, which was good, and I think it did offer some, but it just didn't work as well in this one. Maybe because we kind of knew what was going to happen. I felt this movie was kind of predictable in that aspect. Um, but yeah, I definitely agree with the Prometheus stuff. I think that what it did was a lot different than like a lot of the other movies, and I kind of like that about it. I like that it took a little bit of some chances, um, and yeah, it did carry some good moments and some bad moments. But I do think that when you say that Michael Fassbender's character was great, yes, he absolutely was fantastic, and I love how he returned and did a great job. Um, so yeah.
His performance is great. He plays a kind of a spoiler because it's spoilers, but not really. You kind of can tell he plays two roles in this movie. He plays two different androids, and that was just really interesting. And he's so good as an actor too, because it kind of felt like that there were two different people, two different actors at one point, because they're such different androids. They're different models, and they have different outlooks. And he really did a good job selling it, because I think just easily one of the biggest positives of the movie, just get into, is his performance, because he is lights out. He carries the movie, and a lot of the stuff from Prometheus that carries over works because of him.
Yeah, they utilize him in a really good way. I think you're right on the money when you say that he played two characters, but very differently. I think that you definitely saw the difference between the two different android-like characters, and I think that was great. And yeah, I really liked Michael Fassbender in this movie. He was the one character that when he was on screen that I actually, was like really invested into it, because he was the guy that kind of allowed the movie to actually be strong when it came to characterization. While some of the others, I don't think did a good enough job.
Yeah, going into the rest of the performances, I thought everyone was fine. Not a lot of standouts, though. But I will say, I thought Catherine Waterston, she was good towards the end of the movie. I didn't think we got enough of her for a while, but towards the end, she kind of came into the movie and showed up, and I was like, okay, she's cool. But the one that I also really like Danny McBride in this movie. I thought he was surprisingly really good. He fit into the world. He didn't like stand out. Like he could have been like a sore thumb in this movie. Just like, why is Danny McBride here? But he was actually, compared to some of the other performances, which I can't even really remember most of them, he was a standout, because I thought he really did a good job.
Oh, absolutely. I think the only problem with him was that they underutilized him, as you kind of
Yeah.
noted. I think that if he was more utilized, I think this movie would have been a lot more interesting. He kind of offered a very human and comedic like feeling to the movie that kind of lacked otherwise. We got kind of those scenes where the alien was chasing around people and such. I think the movie would have benefited by having a little bit more of Danny McBride's character, because his story was actually interesting and probably the aspect of the movie that you bought the most. And
Yeah,
it just didn't have
he was
enough.
the only character that really had another sort of conflict going on, aside from there's an alien trying to kill us, with his wife dying pretty early on in the movie. That whole thing of, do I protect all these 2,000 colonists we have? Do I go in to save her and the rest of the crew? Like, he actually had something else going on aside from there's an alien trying to kill me.
Yeah, exactly. I think that while I wasn't super sympathetic for him, I did feel at least a little bit of, okay, now I understand why something's going on and why he's feeling that way. And so yeah, I think they could have utilized more of that. I think he was a really good character, as you noted.
Yeah, and the rest of the characters, again, like I said, pretty disposable. This is really like the Michael Fassbender show,
Mhm.
honestly, which I didn't mind, again, because I wanted Prometheus to carry over and be prominent in this movie, and with him it was. And the whole thing, this movie it's pretty weird, honestly. And for a summer blockbuster, it's what I appreciate, because he's quoting uh, Ozymandias poetry, and I was just like, this is crazy. I was this is a summer blockbuster. Like, it's two Michael Fassbenders sitting in a cave playing flute talking about Ozymandias. I was like, this is nuts. This is weird. I don't know if anybody else is gonna like it, but I was sure I was loving that. All that things with the Fassbender and Fassbender talking and talking about creation and gods and control. I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah, when you take away like the chaotic, action, shoot 'em up, attacking aliens, you get a really interesting, weird movie, as you noted. I think that those two Michael Fassbender characters were really cool, as you noted. I think that it definitely brought something new to the table and something that you don't normally see in a summer blockbuster, for example. But I think it worked in this movie, and I don't. I think if you went to this movie, I think that you would figure out that you would appreciate that more than you thought going into the movie. I think that those uh, two Michael Fassbender characters were fantastic.
Yeah, and aside from that, Ridley Scott, he's directing this movie, and he is a fantastic visual director. This thing looks great. There's a lot of practical effects, like in all his other movies, and again, really appreciate that. Again, just this is not a normal summer blockbuster in that regards. Is that there's some weird themes and imagery stuff going on, lots of practical effects. So I love that. But I do think he kind of made, again, like we said earlier, he was kind of forced to do some of the Alien stuff, and he wanted to do the Prometheus stuff. So it kind of felt this was definitely a mashup of both of those things. And it didn't always work because he felt like he had two different movies going on at the same time. But I do think going with the Alien stuff, I think he got some very effective blood and gore scenes, especially the first kill with the guy like contorting and the thing coming out of his back. I thought that was really like edge of your seat, and it was just great, great payoff. That itself was a great contained scene and a good throwback to Alien, and I really enjoyed that scene specifically.
Yeah, I would agree with you on the visuals. However, I've actually read that people think that the first Alien movie had better effects than this one.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah, which
It's hard to beat that because that's all practical. This one they can do CGI, so they do. So it's impossible to beat just practical effects. But I think it does look better technically. But I think just in regards to all being real, Alien, of course, is better.
yeah, no, I agree. I think that the good news is they weren't they didn't overuse CGI, for example, this movie. They at least took a little bit of both, kind of like that, the new age and the old stuff, which it was good. And yeah, the first kill, you're absolutely right. I think some of these visual effects were really amazing. You looked at it and you're like, oh my gosh, don't do it. But at the same time, you wanted to keep looking because it was so, interesting and beautifully visually. And you're right, Ridley Scott does a great job at that stuff. But yeah, I think the real problem with this movie is those kind of like the two roles this movie plays, paying homage to the originals and trying to be kind of that Prometheus stuff. I think it would have benefited more if we did more of the Prometheus stuff, but at the same time, you always got to do your fans credit. But it's a hard thing to choose. But I really wish that I think that's the problem in this movie. I really wish that Ridley Scott would have been a little bit more innovative and did more what he did in Prometheus and did things that were different. But I did like a lot of the things that he did as well, bringing back some of the old stuff. I think it all worked, but in the end, it's just I wish a little bit more was there.
Yeah, I definitely would have preferred more Prometheus. And talking about how it ties in Prometheus, we get a scene where like what happened to Elizabeth Shaw, and like when they got there, and we get this scene where they show back up, she puts them back together, and he pretty much kills her and like guts her. And then he gets to the planet with all the engineers, and he basically like nukes them all with the black goo from Prometheus and kills everybody. And so that was kind of like just kind of had to get rid of the Prometheus stuff because again, I think this was all studio and fan mandated. This people wanted an Alien movie. They didn't want Prometheus 2 because a lot of people didn't like Prometheus 2. So he did what he could to keep those themes going, which I liked a lot. But I think that scene in particular, it was interesting, but I was also frustrated because I was like, so we're not really going to get a follow-up to Prometheus. We're just going to have this in-between thing because he couldn't get people on board with that. And so that was kind of frustrating.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think that part also kind of seemed rushed in a way. It kind of just seemed kind of put in there just because to, again, kind of just throw away what Prometheus had done. But, I think still you're right. He was trying to really make this one an Alien movie where people could go in and say, that was an Alien movie. I enjoyed it, a real one, rather than some crazy Prometheus movie that was a little more controversial. Obviously, we enjoyed it a little bit more than most people, but to the hardcore fans, they want a movie that is very Alien-esque. It's built on the original, and unfortunately, that just the whole movie just kind of was which one is going to prevail. It was a big tug of war match, and unfortunately, I feel like the Prometheus end of things got the short end of the stick.
Yeah, this is definitely a mix. But I did think also I just enjoyed watching. Just even though it was two different movies, I enjoyed both the movies. I just again would have preferred more of the Prometheus movie, but the Alien movie I got. So I like again the first kill was awesome. I loved that scene. Kind of wish it wasn't like the first one because the rest of the kills didn't really compare really because that one was so good. That whole scene with her being trapped and the other Danny McBride's wife like locking her in and then it busting through the window, like such a great set piece and setup. But also
that scene sort of, believe it or not, reminded me of Star Wars Rogue One. The scene with Vader attacking the rebel
Oh
soldiers
yeah,
trying to get through the door, banging
yeah.
on the door and such. That sort of reminded me of that, believe it or not, because the door
I
was
know.
similar.
And it's so
But
cool because the little alien too, and it was just,
yeah,
they didn't know what it was. It was just very cool scene. But in regards to the rest of when the xenomorph shows up, so Michael Fassbender basically, to spoiler full his plot in the movie, what he basically does is this movie establishes that David, he creates the xenomorph. He creates first. He's been experimenting while he's on this planet, and he has the face hugger, and eventually he gets the doctor man who's they throw in that he's religious just because, I guess, because he had to have some sort of character. But he gets him, and he creates. We have our first xenomorph, and basically all the xenomorph action just felt like Ridley Scott again. He was like, "You want a xenomorph? Take it. Here's your xenomorph." He didn't really care. The xenomorph is one of the coolest creatures and just monsters ever in like movie history, and it felt like again he just had to do it. So he was like, "Here, you can have it," which I thought it was cool. And again, I enjoyed what I saw from it, but it just didn't feel like he was invested in it.
yeah, it kind of was a lot of things in this movie where it was like that, where it's just things were just kind of out of place and kind of just thrown in there just to kind of do it. And without much detail or effort on it, and what it came out is kind of a little bit sloppy. And I mean, it was still good to see. Obviously, I think that they did a good job of putting that kind of stuff in the movie, but at times it just wasn't done as well as I would have hoped.
Yeah, but again, I just the reason I like this movie, even though there's a lot of problems with it, the reason I really overall really enjoy it is because again, it's not like we have the thing to do now with blockbusters or franchise movies where there's an old one is you do the Jurassic World, The Force Awakens, you take a bunch of new characters and you give them the same movie and you just put them through it, and so the fans are like, I know that, I remember that, I love that. And I
Mm-hmm.
think Ridley Scott did the opposite of that in Prometheus. And in this movie, he kind of did half and half. He gave the fans what they wanted. And he also gave people who wanted something original and new and not just fan service what they wanted. And again, like we've been saying, it doesn't quite all work as perfectly as it could have. But I just appreciated that it was at least a little bit different. And again, I really enjoyed the stuff that carried over with Michael Fassbender's character in Prometheus. And the ending, even though I think he wasn't trying to really hide that eventually David is the one, he kills the other android and he has the ship at the end. But I thought that was a really cool ending that set me off. I want the next movie. I'm excited for what's happening, and just a satisfying ending. I left with a smile on my face.
Oh yeah, of course. I think the ending was good. I think it leaves you wanting to know, what's going to happen next. And yeah, I think that was a pretty good way to do it because it kind of caught you off guard on a little bit. It was predictable, but yet not at the same time. It kind of just happened like you're like, whoa. And yeah, I definitely agree that was a good moment. And yeah, I think that hopefully the next movie sticks a little bit straighter. Are we gonna just stick with the gun instead of just going back and forth? I really think that uh, if it does, I think we could create a really good alien movie. But I just too wishy-washy in this movie for me. It just went back and forth. But I do think it was a good effort, and you're right. I do appreciate the kind of the effort of making this movie like that because it is different.
Yeah, I hope the next movie is just weird. I hope we go back, and I hope it's not just another like, oh, some people show up and an alien's loose. We got to run from it. I hope, because it's really like it leaves you off. Like, I don't know what's going to happen next with him. He has 2,000 colonists to experiment on with his newfound, and he got to test the most interesting thing about that last thing with the xenomorph with Catherine Waterston and Danny McBride trying to kill it. Is watching, the scariest part was watching Michael Fassbender just like watch his creation. And like he doesn't try to help it. He's just like watching it and seeing how it does and like testing it and analyzing it. And I was like, this is really interesting because like I was waiting for him to try to save it because I was like, if that's David, he'll try to save it, and he didn't. So I thought that whole thing, I thought David is the scariest part of this movie, not the aliens. And I hope that is explored upon more going forward. The whole thing with him creating and trying to play God. I just want to see how this all plays out, and I hope we get a weird movie.
Yeah, he's super mysterious. While we learn a lot about him, we still don't know the whole story. And I think that scene proved it right there. I think that's why it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next one because of that. Because you want to learn more about who he is as a character, and of course, Michael Fassbender's done a fantastic job as that character, and so you're excited to see more of what he does, and he does it fantastically. So, yeah, but yeah, I'll go ahead and start to rate this puppy. Uh, but yeah, so overall, I thought this movie was pretty good. I did enjoy it, but it had its flaws. It just was very back and forth. It was hard to decipher what this truly wanted to be, but it had its great moments. There's no denying that. You're going to go and enjoy this as an Alien fan or not. Uh, and if you enjoyed Prometheus, you'll enjoy some aspects as well. So overall, I think it's a good, solid effort. Not quite the movie when it comes to Alien that we're looking for, but still not bad. I'm going to go ahead and rate this one at a 7 out of 10. I think it offered what it needed to be, but still not quite where I had hoped.
Yeah, I'm pretty much agree. I'm just a little higher, but I think as a movie has its problems. But as a summer movie, I think if you're a fan of Alien, it gives you Alien. If you're a fan of Prometheus, it gives you not as much, but Prometheus. And they don't quite mix well, but I think you can go ahead and just enjoy this movie for what it is. There's some great kills, some great scenes. There's some great themes and stuff going on. Again, the Ozymandias stuff I found really fascinating. So there's stuff to think about, and visually, lots of blood and guts. It's very, very gory, which I wasn't quite expecting it to be so like angry. Like it was some angry killings in this movie, but I did really enjoy it. I'm going a 7.5 out of 10. I did really enjoy it, but again, has its setbacks, unfortunately. I think I really want to see where this goes next. I hope Ridley Scott can kind of take more full control and tell the story that he wants to tell, not what the studio wants him to tell. And hopefully he has that figured out, because he's kind of been back and forth on what he actually wants to do. So I hope he just takes his time and we get a really good, solid third movie in this kind of prequel trilogy and answers the questions that we already have and just gives us another fun movie. But for a summer movie, I think this is different while also giving us some of the same. So I think most people will at least enjoy the Alien parts of it. Hopefully more if you want some more.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. It's one that fans will go in and probably come out and enjoy. No doubt about it.
Yeah. All right. So thank you guys for watching this review. Let us know down below, what did you think of Alien Covenant, and are you a fan of the Alien franchise? I want to know, are you a fan of Prometheus? Let me know down below, because, again, I love Prometheus, so I'm always looking for new fans of that movie. So let us know and keep track. We're going to be doing more summer movies coming up. Fortunately, have you even seen Guardians of the Galaxy 2 yet, Jamin?
I have not, unfortunately, but soon, trust me.
Yeah, that's crazy, because you see here, I'm a fan of it. I've seen it twice. That one probably won't see a review for it because it's really late, but that one, I'm loving this. I like the summer movie season so far. It's weird, it's different, and we're going to keep these rolling along, so watch out for those. Thanks for watching J&J Reviews.
Sign out.